Welcome, everybody, to Black and Gold Weekly, a weekly Boston Bruins show here on YouTube, brought to you in partnership with Black and Gold Productions. I am your host, John, and we are on episode 63 of the show, another week of Bruins action to talk about. And things are getting a little bit more concerning here over this last week as the injury issue continues. The losses starting to pile up a little bit, although it's not been too bad, but plenty to get into here, plenty to talk about, and as always, we've got Danny here joining me. Danny, what's going on, man? Welcome in. Thanks for being on the show and ready to talk some Bruins action.
I am the Brad Marchand of episodes, number 63, and what a week it's been. Lots of highs, lots of lows, or some lows, not lots of lows, but just another day in Bruins Nation.
Yeah, you got that right. So before we get started, I want to say thank you to Mark Allred and the entire team at Black and Gold Productions. This show would not be happening without them, so I can't thank them enough for all of their support and allowing us to do this. Also want to draw your attention down to the description of the video. There are 3 links there if you guys are in the market for Boston Bruins apparel, NHL apparel from any of the 32 teams, or NCAA college apparel. It's all there. Great selection, great variety of products, all team branded, and you guys can represent whichever teams you want. Check out those links. It really does help out a lot and is greatly appreciated. But Danny, let's get into it here. Obviously some big stuff going on with the Bruins as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, and I think one of the biggest and most concerning things has got to be this injury issue that continues. Trent Frederick, as we talked about last week, was out. He's come back, but Hampus Lindholm is still out. David Pastrnak is still out. And added to the list now, Matt Grzelcyk and Brandon Carlo, both injured as well. So Boston having some injury problems at a very not ideal time right now as we gear up for the postseason.
And the thing with Brandon Carlo is, aside from the fact that the Bruins defense has been hit by the injury bug, Carlo, unfortunately, injuries have been something that he has suffered throughout the course of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would never like to see injuries, but this injury to Carlo is concerning just because it's a continuation of what we've seen. I'm not blaming him. Great player, but it's just a case of, can he stay healthy? And, we saw this in the playoffs last year when he was hurt and how that affected the Bruins defensively.
Yep.
And their depth defensively. And now we're getting hit with potential depth issues even before the playoffs begin.
Yeah, this is not good. I mean, you've literally got 3 of your top 4 defensemen out of the lineup now. Lindholm, Grzelcyk, Carlo, 3 of your top 4 guys injured. That is not how you want to be going into the playoffs. And obviously we said this last week, but we really, really need to hope that these are not anything long-term and that these are, just going to, that these guys are going to be ready back 100% to go for the postseason. Because, I mean, I don't care who you are, how deep you think you are. When you lose 3 out of your top 4 D-men, I mean, that's killer for anybody. I mean, you can have as many defensemen on your roster as you want. You lose 3 of your top 4 guys, you're in a lot of trouble. And that is going to be devastating if any of these injuries carry over into the playoffs. So Boston really needs to focus here on getting healthy and trying to, make sure that they're ready to go come postseason time and are able to get at least most of these guys back into the lineup.
And defense was an area where the Bruins struggled throughout the course of the season. The addition of Hampus Lindholm was hoping to able to fill some gaps there. But, this is an area where the Bruins have struggled already. And right as they're kind of gelling and finding their footing, they get hit with the injury bug. So this is just, when it rains, it pours. I believe I said that last week, but it seems like this is happening a lot with the Bruins lately, especially with the injuries. And quite honestly, in a playoff year where the Bruins look like the underdogs against most of these opponents, this is not what you want to see.
Yeah, 100%. And I know before we started recording, we mentioned this, but honestly, I think the Bruins are at a point here where you getting healthy for the playoffs has to be the number one priority. Like, you're going to the playoffs. You're probably going to be a wild card team anyway, but you're going to the playoffs, and you really only need like one, maybe two more wins to lock yourself into a playoff spot. Boston's top priority here has got to be getting healthy for the postseason, because if they go into the playoffs with 3-4 key players out of the lineup, they are done. They're done before it even begins. Because every matchup that you can possibly get for the first round this year is going to be an extremely difficult matchup in a series that's going to have to be very hard fought. And if you're missing, two key defensemen, or if Pasternak's not back, like, you're done. It's over. You can kiss any winning in the playoffs goodbye. You're out in round one. So I think the biggest key for them has got to be getting healthy. And honestly, I would start by anybody that's not 100% cannot be in the lineup. Whether it's coming back from an injury, whether it's a guy who's trying to play through an injury, I would not have anybody who's not 100% in the lineup right now.
Yeah.
Just because it's not worth it. You need them to be 100% come playoff time. You can't be risking that now in these regular season games.
I totally agree. Just clinch the playoff spot, get into the playoffs, and then just try to take as many guys out of the lineup for the regular season as possible. Get everybody as healthy as they can be. Focus on getting them rest. Focused on getting them healed up, iced, whatever. Clinch the playoff spot, and then sit back, relax, and hope that these guys get better before the start of the first round.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think at the end of the day, you're going to be a wild card team anyway, in my opinion. I mean, maybe they get the third spot in the Atlantic. And then you have to play Toronto in the first round, which, again, is not going to be easy. Obviously, we have a good history against the Maple Leafs. But, I mean, Toronto is a very tough team this year. They've beaten the Bruins when they've played against them, both times so far. So, I mean, no matter what this series is, it's going to be difficult, and you need to have a healthy lineup. So if there's anybody, I am not rushing anybody back. If they're not 100%, you are not coming back into the lineup, because I'd rather have them miss these regular season games at the end of the year than have them be missing playoff games or only playing at 80% in the playoffs. Because if you're not fully ready to go, full complement of players, and have your best come playoff time, no matter who Boston ends up playing, they're not going to beat them without a healthy lineup.
And we've seen teams, and I know I always refer back to this playoff series, but the Islanders series last year, when the Bruins suffered a bit of the injury bug during the series, and the Islanders had 3 deep lines that they could go to get production. And the Bruins have depth and they have talent, but it needs to be fully there, fully healthy in order to, compete with the likes of, let's say, Florida, for instance, or even Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay, we may have had success against them this year, but I don't take them lightly, especially as they're a playoff Stanley Cup winning experienced group. The playoffs are a different animal. And the Lightning are one of the teams, in my opinion, that can really flip the switch, because they've been there, done that before, and they have the Stanley Cups in their trophy case and all the awards to prove it.
Yeah, there's no easy matchup in the playoffs this year. No matter who you play, it's going to be difficult. And, we saw what happened with Brandon Carlo last year. I mean, that Islanders series completely changed when Brandon Carlo got hurt. All of a sudden, Boston was down a defenseman, down a shutdown defenseman. The Islanders started scoring a lot more. Boston couldn't stop them. They didn't have anybody that could step up and play that role. And next thing you know, it goes from a 2-1 series lead for the Bruins to a loss in 6 games, and Bruins were out of the playoffs. And I think the exact same kind of thing can happen again this year if the Bruins aren't healthy for the first round series.
And you bring in a guy like Hampus Lindholm to kind of help address the depth issues defensively, and now he's hurt.
Yep.
So it's just like, it's just so frustrating. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Injuries happen, but it's just like it seems like even when the Bruins went to address the moves, the same old stuff is coming back to bite them in terms of injuries at key times.
Yeah, I mean, you add Brown as a depth guy, you
Yep.
add Lindholm to your top four to really kind of round out that decor. And now you've got three guys out. So now you're looking at Clifton, Brown, Riley, Forber, all having to play roles that are too big for them, that they shouldn't be forced into, or aren't going to necessarily be comfortable playing, but they have to because you've got so many guys out. I mean, you've got Forbert now playing way too high in the lineup. You've got Riley playing way too high in the lineup just because Lindholm and Grzelcyk are out. So now that left side is left bare, and Riley and Forbert have to move up. You got Carlo out now potentially on the right side. He just got hurt in last night's game. Not really sure what the extent of it is or how long term it's going to be, but now that means you probably have Clifton and Brown in the lineup at the same time, and that is certainly not ideal. Those are guys that are supposed to be depth defensemen that occasionally fill in when you need them to, bottom pair role, and that's it. And now they're both probably going to be in the lineup and playing pretty significant minutes. So as much as you tried to add to the defensive depth by bringing in 2 D-men at the deadline, it still seems like it's not enough because now you have 3 guys out.
And this is not Cassidy's fault. This is not Sweeney's fault. It's just very bad luck. The good thing here is, if there is a silver lining, we get to see Hampus Lindholm for, the next 7+ years or so.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, that's the length of his contract. I believe he has an opt-out clause. But, this is a team that we can still build around and a team that should be solid defensively. It's just right now things don't look promising due to all the injuries.
I think just the biggest thing is you've got to get some of these guys back. I mean, if the lineup that the Bruins are going to trot out on Thursday against Ottawa cannot be the lineup that that is opening the playoffs. You've got to get some of these guys back for the postseason. I think that's got to be the number one priority. Like I said earlier, if anybody's not 100%, they are not playing. At this point, you've just got to get rested. You've got to get healthy and ready to go for the postseason. 'Cause listen, Boston is going to make the playoffs. I mean, unless the Islanders literally win out, Boston is going to make the playoffs. Even if they didn't win another game, I still think they're getting into the playoffs, and I don't think Boston's going to go winless the rest of the season. So, I think the big priority now is obviously locking up that playoff spot, but I think that's pretty much already almost done. But the biggest thing has got to be getting these guys healthy, because you've got to have if you have 1 or 2 guys out, maybe you can overcome that, but you're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs with this many players on the shelf.
And I wonder, honestly, too, say in a perfect world, all these players come back healthy for round 1, but they still have those nagging injuries. If, say, the Bruins win round 1 and they advance, are these injuries going to pop up, again as the playoffs, continue, as the wear and tear starts to accumulate? And
Yep.
it's going to be fascinating to see how Cassidy deals with this and who is able to come back, because like we just said, the Bruins need all hand on deck. But I have a hard time believing, and I could be completely wrong, that these guys, all of them, will come back fully healthy and be fully healthy without any lingering effects throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, say you get by round 1, now, you're into another possibly up to 7-game series, and more hits, more physicality, more, wear and tear on the body, and guys that maybe were playing through a hip problem or a shoulder problem, whatever, all of a sudden that gets worse in series number 2 and their play declines, and it could become a lingering issue for sure. Boston could get all of these guys back and still lose round 1. Even getting these guys back is no guarantee that they even get by round 1. But if they do, these injury issues could just pop up again as they get deeper into the playoffs and further along, where the just more wear and tear on the body continues as the postseason goes along.
And I don't know if we can kind of segue into this a little bit, but you know, Jeremy Swayman has struggled as well.
Yep.
And so that's another element that you kind of have to take into account here. Not only are you going to need healthy players back and, injury-free or at least available to play, but you're going to have to rely on Swayman a lot more because some of these guys may not, skate as quickly as they could because of injury, or they're a step slow defensively, so that leads to breakaways or odd man rushes. I mean, it's not a lot to put on the goaltender because he can handle it, but it's not an ideal situation, especially as you get into the playoffs where these teams are bigger, stronger, and faster.
Yeah, so do you think Swayman's officially hit the rookie wall now? Because it's not been great for him his last few games. He's really, as dominant as he was for so much of this year. I mean, gave up 6 goals against Toronto, gave up 4 goals against Detroit, gave up 4 goals again last night against St. Louis. I mean, like, this has got to be a little bit concerning at this point for Swayman as we get down towards the end of the year and all of a sudden, he's heading the wrong way.
I think he honestly hit the rookie wall last week. When we talked about it last week, we were kind of, I posed the question, who do you start in game 1? And we really both couldn't answer that definitively. And, now after seeing another week of play, I think, yes, he's hit the rookie wall. And again, it couldn't come at a worse time. But so, again, I'll pose the question, who do you start game 1?
I mean, right now, like I said last week, I think last week's show we talked quite a bit about, who would go game 1, and I've got to go with Linus Ullmark, just because I think, like I said last week, you've got to play the goaltender that you think gives you the best chance to win. And for most of this season, that was Jeremy Swayman. But right now, the way that these guys have played over the past, say, 2 weeks, if you took the last 2 weeks for Ullmark and the last 2 weeks for Swayman, I think Ullmark's the guy that gives you the best chance to win. And I think right now you would have to go with him, I think, because Swayman just isn't what he was a month ago right now. Hopefully he can get back to that. I want to see Jeremy Swayman succeed. I want to see him play well and playing great in goal, but right now he just isn't. And, you don't have time to let him work it out in the playoffs. 4 losses and you're done. Like, there's no time to figure it out in the playoffs. You've got to win and win now. And I think the goalie at this point, based on how they've played over the past few weeks, that gives you the best chance to win now is Linus Ullmark.
I agree. And, I figured your answer hadn't changed. I feel like we're going to be posing this question a lot more over the next, hopefully, couple weeks. But I just don't see it as a good combination when you have a struggling, probably fatigued goaltender who's heading into the playoffs with a injured defensive group that is the key to success and helping out Swayman or Ullmark, quite frankly, to play well. I don't see that as an ideal combination.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, obviously, ideally, you'd be having shutdown defense and getting great goaltending at the same time, and you'd be looking really, really good going into the postseason. Unfortunately, Boston's really not in that situation right now with all the guys on the back end out of the lineup and Swayman not playing all that great in goal. Ullmark's been better. But this, to me, paints the picture of the Bruins goaltending situation right now, why I would go with Ullmark. Linus Ullmark has not given up 4 goals in a game since March 1st. So it's been 6 weeks now since Linus Ullmark has given up 4 goals in a game. Jeremy Swayman has given up 4 goals in a game in 3 in his last 4 starts.
Who was the opponent where Linus Ullmark gave up 4 goals in a game, out of curiosity? Yeah, those pesky
Anaheim back on
Ducks.
March 1st, which I
Yeah,
believe
those
was the
Ducks were
game in
pesky.
Anaheim.
Yeah. Okay, yep, I remember that one. Those Ducks were pesky this year, but yeah, as far as goaltenders go, I think I would have to go with, Allmark to start, you know, the opener, if nothing else, to give Swayman rest or something, because, you know, I'd like ideally to have either the defense play well and the goalie hold his own, or the goalie hold his own while the defense kind of figures things out. Having both groups struggling at the same time is not what I would want.
Yeah, no, you can't have the goalies trying to figure things out at the same time as a very injured defense struggling as well. That's not going to get you places.
No. So,
Well, it will get you places. It's called the golf course.
yeah, and so just kind of looking at this overall, I'm not, especially with the injury to Carlo last night, I'm not feeling too excited about the Bruins' playoff chances to this point. Now, if people get healthy, if, people can play, and, if Swayman gets back to, I don't want to say normal, but if he can stop his slump, then we can talk about maybe getting a little excited. But right now, it's kind of unsure. I'm very unsure.
I'd rather drop honestly to the second wild card spot, which is very possible with Washington playing as well as they have here recently. It's very, very possible. Washington right now is only 3 points back of the Bruins, same number of games played. I would rather drop to the second wild card spot and play Florida in the first round than stay in this first wild card spot and have to play Carolina.
Yeah.
Because Carolina has utterly destroyed the Bruins every time they've played this year.
And it would give the Bruins a chance to get bodies healthy in case they have to face Carolina in a potential next round. So
Florida, I think, as good as they are, and as much as I think they would beat the Bruins in a playoff series, at least Florida, I have major questions about their overall ability to keep the puck out of their net. Like, as much as Florida scores goals, they also give up a lot, and Bobrovsky hasn't been all that great recently. Florida's got some defensive issues still. I feel like at least that would give some sort of glimmer of hope, some area that the Bruins could potentially exploit and maybe find a way to steal that series. Carolina, I think just the way that they've handled the Bruins every single time they've played this season, I think that series is over quick and not in a good way for Boston.
And it seems like the one thing that's always been, not always, but I'd say, quite frankly, the last 3 seasons or so is the goaltending. Bobrovsky, they signed him to that huge contract, and he's very, very up and down. If they had a consistent goaltender, I would be a lot more afraid. But I totally agree with you. If they put Bobrovsky in net, which they will, of course, that definitely gives the Bruins a chance to maybe, make their mark in a series and get him rattled. Who knows? I mean, I agree with you. I like, the possibility of Florida's goaltending not being 100%.
Yeah, so the first time the Bruins played the Hurricanes this year, it was a 3-0 loss. The second time they played, it was 7-1 Carolina. And the last time they played in February was 6-0 Carolina. So Carolina has outscored them 16-1 in the 3 games that they played this season, and obviously won all 3. So I do not want to play the Hurricanes in the first round if I'm the Bruins. It's just that is not the matchup that you want to see. I would rather play Florida. I would rather play Toronto. I would rather play Tampa Bay. I do not want to face the Carolina Hurricanes in round 1.
Honestly, I feel like in terms of playoffs, the Carolina Hurricanes are what the Tampa Bay Lightning usually are. A team that you don't really want to face. Like, I would want to face Tampa Bay because for some reason this year we've matched up really well with them.
Yeah, Boston's played well against Tampa this year.
Which is interesting because then we can barely eke out wins over Arizona. But anyway, no, I would rather play Tampa Bay. I would do whatever it takes to put off facing Carolina for as long as possible because I do not want to see any more football scores at TD Garden, that's for sure.
No. Although Florida might give you some football scores, though.
Maybe, but we
But more in
can.
like the 7-6 range, not the
Yeah.
7-0.
Yeah. I was gonna say we can put up, 6 goals, and at least that would look and probably be a better game than a 7-0 absolute shellacking.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So injuries not happening at the right time here. Goaltending kind of slumping, particularly Jeremy Swayman, not at the right time here. We only got 3 weeks left, 2.5 weeks left till the playoffs. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I just think my biggest takeaway from all of this is that the Bruins need to get healthy. They need whatever it takes. They're going to be going to the playoffs. I don't think they're getting caught by anybody. The Islanders would literally have to win out. I don't think that that's going to happen. The Bruins need to make sure that they have healthy bodies ready to go for round one, because if not, it's going to be a very short-lived playoff run for this Boston team if they're missing this many guys out of the lineup.
My takeaway for this Bruins team is I don't know. It's the same takeaway we had at the beginning of October. It's the same takeaway that we had at the beginning of January, and quite frankly, it's been the same takeaway we've had for quite a while, because this team is honestly one of the most confusing Bruins teams I've ever followed. They're hard to get a read on exactly what they can do. Sometimes, they look like Stanley Cup contenders. Other times, they look like they belong in Providence. So I guess that's my big takeaway is I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I think it all depends on how the injuries heal and if Swayman can find his groove again and, kind of get out of that rookie slump.
Yeah, definitely. This has been a very interesting team to follow because they've just been so all over the place, and there's been so many good things, but then also so many bad things as well. And it's tough to get a read on them, and especially going into the playoffs with this many matchups that I think are going to be extremely tight throughout the postseason this year. It feels like a team that could get swept out in round one some nights, and then other nights they look like they could contend for a cup, and you just don't know which Bruins team you're going to get. And I think that in a lot of ways is pretty frustrating.
Yeah, especially, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but when you look at the core group and how much longer they have left, it is very frustrating because you want this team to go far and do big things. And I feel like the big three should have won more, but I'm not going to say I don't see it in the cards for this team because you just never know. But I am just so confused about this team. I really am. It's like a girl you like, and then all of a sudden she doesn't like you, and then you start talking again. And you're like, I have no idea what's going on here. I have absolutely no idea, and that's the case with the Bruins. They're the girl that's confusing me right now.
Yeah, dude, definitely. They literally, that's a great way to put it. It's like one week you're talking every day and hanging out after school, and then the next week she's sitting with someone else at lunch, and you're like, what the hell is going on here?
Right, yeah.
It's very confusing with this team for sure. So we'll see what they can do. I mean, at the end of the day, all we can do is just kind of wait and see. And the playoffs are coming over these next few weeks from now, whether we like it or not, whether the team's healthy or not. The playoffs are coming. So they're going to have to get it into gear, get ready to go, and see what they can do come postseason time. But it is not going to be easy, that is for sure.
And I already told myself I'm just going to sit back, relax, enjoy some playoff hockey, and temper my expectations. We will see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
We will see how long that lasts.
We'll see how long before I'm raging on stream and throwing stuff at the TV.
Probably pretty soon, I guess.
Probably not going to be that far away. But anyway, obviously that's kind of some big stuff going on with the Bruins right now, particularly the injury situation. Some other big news that we've gotten today, report from Kevin Weeks that the Boston Bruins, well, we know that they're playing the Winter Classic in 2023. So we know that this next year's Winter Classic was going to be in Boston. We just didn't know the details yet, the opponent at Fenway, all of that. So it's official now, or at least according to Kevin Weeks, who's obviously an insider and former player, and very, very good at breaking news. He's a good
very
newsbreaker.
Very good hockey reporter, yeah.
He's a good newsbreaker for as far as insiders go in the NHL. Pittsburgh Penguins, Boston Bruins, Fenway Park, next Winter Classic. This was kind of expected. The rumors like immediately when it happened was that it was going to be Pittsburgh. It was going to be at Fenway. Obviously now with Fenway Sports Group buying the Penguins and taking over the Penguins, it makes all the sense in the world from that perspective. And I guess now we just know for sure that that's going to be what the Winter Classic is.
I'm all for the Bruins and Penguins playing in the Winter Classic, but I'd like to see the Bruins play the Lightning, for instance. I don't think that would ever happen because the Lightning are, a warmer climate team.
Well, Lightning played in the Stadium Series this year.
They did, but I mean, I'm excited to see the Penguins again. I believe they've played. Let's see. I know they played in the first one, right?
Yeah, they played Buffalo in the first one. They played one against Washington
in 2010, I think.
Yeah, they've played more too. Like Pittsburgh's had a lot of outdoor games. I know they had a Stadium Series game against Philadelphia. I think they've had multiple Stadium Series games against Philadelphia. Pittsburgh's played a lot of outdoor games, as have the Bruins. And that's kind of the complaint from, non-Bruins fans is that these same teams, Washington, Pittsburgh, Boston, keep getting the outdoor games over and over and over again. So if you're not a Bruins fan, that's what people are complaining about. But for us as Bruins fans, I love outdoor games, so I'm perfectly happy with the Bruins getting to do another one.
I don't like watching hockey at Fenway Park because the sightlines are terrible. I would have liked to have seen the Bruins at Lake Tahoe. What was it, last year?
Yeah, they played Philadelphia last year.
That's right. That's what it was.
That's right, February 2021.
Seems like so long ago, but I remember
know it feels like it was 3 seasons ago. It was just last year.
But I remember you ranting about the melting ice.
Oh, that was the first game, the Colorado Vegas game where the ice melted.
That was hilarious. If you never heard John rant, that was a good one.
They didn't plan for that. That it was going to be sunny out. Are you kidding me?
Honestly, I'd rather see the Bruins at another Lake Tahoe game than another, Fenway Park Winter Classic game. Lake Tahoe, the pictures looked awesome.
Oh yeah, it was sick. It was so sick. The sight lines and obviously there was no fans, so it was just like the natural setting around it with like the lake and the mountains behind them. It was really cool.
That was so cool. I would definitely, because I think they didn't have fans because of COVID, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
there's still like peak COVID.
So if they have one and they invite fans, I might look into taking that trip because that looked like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, I probably won't be going to the Fenway Winter Classic, but I'm fine watching it on TV. I love outdoor games. I know some people are sick of the outdoor stuff. I don't know. I don't get that. I don't know why. Even if they did like 4 or 5 outdoor games every single year, it's still like there's over 1,200 games every season in the NHL. Almost all of them are indoors. So even if you had 5 outdoor games, that'd be such a small percentage of the NHL schedule that it would still be cool to have a few outdoor games. Like, how can you say you get sick of outdoor games but not get sick of indoor games where there's literally 1,200 of them every year?
Well, I think for the casuals, especially, like we just talked about, it's a lot of the same teams, Penguins, Bruins, Flyers. So I think that's probably why a lot of people get sick of outdoor games. And I feel like the concept of an outdoor game is good, but in recent years, we've seen expanded teams like Colorado. Didn't you do a stream 2 years ago where it was Colorado?
Colorado and LA.
That's what it was, yeah. So, I mean, I think the main complaint is, people often see the same teams, and I think if maybe there was more of a diverse, matchups in terms of, 2 West Coast teams or, 2 teams like Dallas and Florida or something like that, that might win them over a little bit. I personally do like outdoor games, but it does seem like a lot of the same teams. So I totally get where, people are coming from when they say they're kind of sick of them.
Well, Boston gets another one.
They do.
Bruins get another one against the Penguins coming up January 2023. So
I think it's gonna be
Obviously,
New Year's Day. Do you think?
it usually has been. It usually has been. So
Yeah. So
we'll
probably.
wait for an official word from the
Yeah.
NHL, but I that's the report right now is that it's going to be Bruins Penguins Winter Classic at Fenway Park. So all right, let's take a look at these last few games, and it honestly hasn't been all that great. Bruins have lost a couple in a row now. Obviously, the injuries playing a big role in that. Some key pieces out of the lineup, but going back to last Friday, at least we have a positive to talk about here: a 2-1 overtime win over the Tampa Bay Lightning.
A 2-1 overtime win over the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I think I picked that they would lose this one, if I'm not mistaken, an
I believe
overtime
you did, yeah.
loss. But I was wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong. This started off the week really well. I thought the Bruins did a good job of, hanging in there, and because games against Tampa Bay are never easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking for that player to step up to help you get over the hump against a very good team, and that player was Charlie Coyle. He scored the overtime, game-winning goal, and he's really been on a hot streak over the last couple months or so. He's having a really nice season. We were kind of wondering last year, can he produce at a high level still? And I think he's answered that this season, for me at least. I don't know about you.
Yeah, Coyle's had a big bounce back here, 100%, and obviously got a big-time game winner in this one. 16 goals now on the season for Coyle. DeBrusk had a 2-point night in this one. He had a goal and an assist. So that was obviously a nice game for Jake DeBrusk as well, who continues to stay hot. And, Ullmark was incredible in goal. Stopped 28 out of 29 shots against. Bruins outshot the Lightning 37-29. This was just another good performance by Boston against Tampa Bay. And they were able to go in there and get the win. And, that's obviously a very good win every time you can get it, especially in Tampa.
The continuation of Jake DeBrusk's strong play is definitely encouraging to see. This is the first year, I'll say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, where it seems like he's been able to stay hot more than he's gone cold. I know he had that stretch at the end of February, beginning of March, where he got a little cold, but it seems like he's been playing at a more consistent level this year.
Well, I'd say the second half of this year. The first half of the year, he was downright awful.
Yeah.
But
second half.
This is from January on, like as this team has really gotten and played better and gotten better. DeBrusk has been a lot better in this. He's been good for much more the second half than he's been not good. I'll definitely say that. So that is without a doubt a positive for the Bruins to have him playing the way that he is right now. But Boston could not follow up the big win over Tampa Bay with a big win in Washington. Sunday afternoon, they drop a 4-2 game to the Washington Capitals. They get outshot 33-30. Another 0 on the power play, and I want to get into that when we get done with just going through the games here. But this one was not as good for the Bruins, who got... It was a pretty even game until the third period. And then in the third period, they just got absolutely outplayed, outworked, dominated in the third. And that was it. Washington took over, scored Lars Eller, put him up 3-2. And then it really was a one-goal game. Ovechkin just finished it off at the end with an empty netter with only a few seconds to go. But at the end of the day, Boston was not good enough in the third period of this game.
And Washington had 25 block shots in comparison to the Bruins' 9.
Yep.
And, Washington was able to, get the job done on a Sunday game. I thought, it was one of those games where it was close, but you could tell that the Bruins were lacking something. And, Washington was able to come away with the victory. And, it's those darn Sunday games that really trip up the Bruins.
Sunday afternoons, not good.
Although Eric Halla loves Sunday afternoons, as he scored another goal and he continues his hot streak. But this one was not really disappointing because losses will happen. But this was a game where I felt the Bruins really could have won.
Yeah, definitely. Olmark played very, very well in goal,
Mm.
despite getting the loss, and this was Olmark's first loss in a while. He played great in goal. Washington could have easily had 7 or 8 goals in this game. And Olmark, I can distinctly remember 3 or 4 saves where he just absolutely robbed the Capitals and really kept the Bruins in the game. This could have been a lot more one-sided if it wasn't for how well Olmark played in net.
Absolutely. He had 32 saves, I believe. And he really was able to keep the Bruins in the game and give them a chance to get back into it, but they just couldn't do it. And with all the recent goaltending struggles or the inconsistencies that the Bruins have had over the past week or so, a performance like this from Allmark, despite the loss, was certainly encouraging.
Yeah, and he's definitely been the better goalie for the last few weeks. There's no doubt about that. He is outplaying Jeremy Swayman right now. So loss against the Capitals Sunday afternoon, and then Boston trying to get back on track. First home game, back with after this 4-game road trip that they were on. They play the St. Louis Blues. First time the Blues have been to Boston since Game 7 in 2019 when
Don't remind me.
yeah, we don't need to go there. But St. Louis back in Boston, and once again the Bruins come up short and lose this one 4-2. And again, have a decent start to the game. They're up 2-1 after the first period, and then it's all downhill from there. And old friend Torrey Krug ends up scoring the tying goal for the Blues in the second period, and then Tarasenko puts a couple home and ends up with the 4-2 win for St. Louis. And this was another one just kind of hoping for more for the Bruins.
Yeah, Torrey Krug ended up having 2 points, and honestly, I kind of miss him. I really feel like, he got a lot of money from St. Louis, and I think at the time, I was kind of like, okay, he got too much money. He can go to St. Louis. I don't think he's worth that much.
Mm-hmm.
But, now I kind of have regrets. And this isn't just from last night. I've had regrets about letting Torrey Krug go since it kind of became a thing that the Bruins defense was going to struggle a little bit. But, Tuesday night, he showed exactly what he could do. He got a goal. He got an assist. And he's that type of offensive player.
Mm-hmm.
You saw how good he was on the power play when he was here. He was
Yep.
like the quarterback or the point guard of the power play. And, he continues to do well in St. Louis against a very tough St. Louis Blues team who always seems to find their way into the playoffs.
Yeah, and St. Louis will be going to the playoffs again this year. But this marks another loss, 2 losses in a row now for Boston in regulation, both losing 4-2. Another 0 night on the power play for the Bruins, which that power play has looked absolutely lost without David Pastrnak. And Boston's got to get back on track. We'll talk about their schedule coming up here in a couple of minutes, but they've got to get back into the win column and get back on track. They also really need to focus on getting themselves healthy for the playoffs. They've got quite a few games left still. 9 games remaining for the Bruins over these next 2.5 weeks. Boston's got to make sure that they clinch, which I think, again, they really only need like 1, maybe 2 more wins until they clinch. But they also need to focus on getting healthy, as we talked about a lot early in this show. It's kind of been a frustrating week overall. And the power play, I want to get into the power play because the power play has been absolutely brutal for the Bruins. I don't even remember the last time that they scored a power play goal. I'm going to have to look through here. I'm pretty sure they're like 0 for their last 20-something on the man advantage. And the last time Boston scored a power play goal, we are already going back to the Columbus games. Have they scored a power play goal in April?
I'm looking, and it looks like they haven't, but
I'm all the way back to the first game of April against the Blue Jackets. Boston went 1 for 1 on the power play in the game against Columbus back on April 2nd. That is their only power play goal this month, and that is a problem. Because if you can't take advantage of those opportunities that you get up a man, that's going to come back and bite you big time eventually, especially in the playoffs. And to only have one power play goal in the month of April, that is not nearly good enough.
Yeah, and when you talk about maximizing your opportunities, those include, opportunities on the power play. You have to make sure you take advantage of every scoring chance. And heading into the final stretch of the regular season here, you want to, form good habits in preparation for the playoffs. It sounds cliche, but it's true. And, you know, the power play has not been practicing good habits as of late, and they really, really need to get it going.
Yeah, and obviously not having David Pastrnak, who
Huge.
arguably your most important power play player, that's obviously had a big effect on what's going on here with the Bruins on the man advantage because, he's their shooter, he's their scorer, the guy that takes the one-timer from the top of the circle. Their power play kind of really having him out there completely changes the dynamic. And without Pastrnak or that shooting threat from the outside, it allows teams to just clog up the middle and keep everything to the perimeter and not really have to worry about it and really just take away the middle of the ice. And that's what we're seeing happen. And the Bruins look completely lost without having Pasta out there.
Yeah, there's so much more movement when Pasta is on the power play, and his passing ability is also extremely good. His vision is incredible on the ice in addition to his stick handling, and it allows other players to get into comfortable spots, and he gets them in opportunities and positions to score. So he truly is a massive piece of their power play, and let's hope he can get back soon because the power play is going to be huge for the playoffs, and quite frankly, it could win them or lose them a game depending on if they convert or if they don't.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. So that's something that we need David Pastrnak back. We need the power play back for sure because you're probably not going to have much success in the playoffs without those two things.
Nope. Not at all.
All right, so looking ahead now to the upcoming schedule, we got 3 more games coming up here between now and when we record again on Wednesdays. Obviously, this past 3-game stretch did not go the way that we hoped. I think I said I wanted 2-0-1 from the Bruins, and we got 1-2, so that's not good enough here for Boston. Coming up on Thursday, they have the Ottawa Senators at home. Obviously, that is a game against a non-playoff team, a game that I would certainly expect and hope to see the Bruins win. Even with guys out of the lineup, they should still be able to beat Ottawa. Then on Saturday the 16th, they have an afternoon game against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'll actually be at that game. My dad and I are going to that one. And they have awesome. A couple days off before going back out on the road. And Tuesday night, they play the Blues again in St. Louis this time. Obviously on the road there. So not an easy schedule. Obviously, Ottawa is definitely the winnable game, but Pittsburgh and St. Louis are both tough opponents. How do you think this should go, Danny? What do you see looking ahead here over these next few games?
I don't see room for optimism given all the injuries and things like that. If they have to win a game, it's this one against Ottawa.
Yeah,
that's the easiest game. That's the easiest game on their schedule. I see them beating Ottawa. I don't see them beating Pittsburgh, and I don't see them going into St. Louis and beating the Blues. I think the Blues are a very well-rounded team. They have all their pieces. They're healthy, and I see this being another really tough week for the Bruins. I honestly see the Bruins limping to the finish line before the playoffs begin. Like we kind of have said, I think it is truly just get into the playoffs and make sure everybody's healthy. I don't think the rest of the regular season has the potential to finish as strongly as we might have hoped. I don't know about you.
I'm going to say 1-1-1.
Okay. I like it.
They got to beat Ottawa. There's no doubt about they cannot afford to lose to the Senators. That is one of the most winnable games remaining on their schedule is this Ottawa game. So they've got to make sure they get the 2 points out of that one. Pittsburgh in the afternoon. Saturday is going to be a tough game, but it is at home. That one might be the overtime loss. And then, like you said, I don't think they go into St. Louis and win at St. Louis. I think that, the Blues just beat them, and I think the Blues can beat them again. As long as they play Ville Husso in net and not Jordan Binnington, because Binnington's been awful this year. But if Husso's in net for the Blues, I think the Blues win that one. So I'm going to say a win over Ottawa, an OT loss to Pittsburgh, and a loss to the St. Louis Blues next Tuesday. And I think they go 1-1-1 here over this next stretch. They get 3 out of 6 possible points.
I don't think this is going to be an easy stretch at all. I mean, I don't feel comfortable about this stretch here. Nope. I think it's more just about, can we finish the regular season without accumulating any more injuries and making sure that everybody is healthy.
Yep.
Honestly, for the Bruins' sake, the playoffs can't come soon enough. Yeah, I'm not too optimistic about this stretch. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough one, no doubt about it. But that's what's coming up here for Boston. They've got some tough games, some tough opponents. Obviously, Ottawa's the easy one that they should win. But there's really no easy games in the NHL. Ottawa plays hard and will continue to play hard. So Bruins got to find a way to get themselves locked in here. They haven't clinched officially yet, although it certainly does look like they will be going to the playoffs. They haven't officially locked themselves in yet. I'd love to see them win against Ottawa. That'd be 2 points closer to locking themselves in. And I think at that point, it would be pretty much Bruins are in if they're able to beat Ottawa and get up to 97 points. But at the end of the day, though, it's still going to be a tough stretch here, and they've got some big games coming up against difficult opponents. And even after these next 3 games, it doesn't get any easier after that. They've got Pittsburgh again. They've got the Rangers. They got Florida one more time this season. They've got Toronto one more time this season. It's not getting any easier here for Boston. They are kind of limping into the playoffs a little bit.
Honestly, those final, especially against Florida and Toronto, they have to take those games seriously, because I would consider that a playoff preview.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to at least meet one of those teams, and it will be an interesting measuring stick to see how they do. And let's say if the Bruins have another game against Toronto like they did a couple weeks ago, I wouldn't be optimistic. But if they play Florida and Toronto strongly, for example, then, I would feel a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. But that's it here for episode 63 of the show. Danny, as always, it's awesome to have you on. Great to talk some hockey with you, and we'll see what the Bruins are able to do this week.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully we'll have some good news next week.
Yeah, definitely. Hoping for some good news, a good week, and some good stuff to talk about for next week's episode. Thank you guys, everybody, also for watching. Really, really appreciate it. Obviously, without you guys watching, this show wouldn't happen. Big thank you to Mark Allred and the entire team at Black and Gold Productions. Again, this show would not be happening without them. So thank you to them for all of their support and allowing this to happen. And don't forget, once again, down in the description of the video, we've got those 3 links there. If you're in the market for Boston Bruins apparel, NHL apparel from any team, or NCAA apparel, please check that out down in the description. Greatly, greatly appreciated. That's going to do it here for this week. We'll be back next week with episode 64. Thank you guys all so much again for watching. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.